I hit someone's car this week. I was parallel parking to get to a comedy show because I was running late, as always. And I thought about leaving a note on their windshield, like with my insurance information and everything, and then I decided to just leave and not do any of that. So that was great. I realized that the reason actually that I drove away was because I didn't want to pay for any of the damages. So, you know, it's usually just I mean it was just a scratch and they had a bunch of stupid bumper stickers on their car. Wasn't political, but uh I'm people like me, like people that drive away. Most of the time, I do drive away. Actually, this wasn't like a one-off occurrence. Um, but people like us dingers, as I call us, we don't have good jobs. Usually we have some varying degree spectrum of mental illness, which would explain a lot of what happens. That being said, if someone were to approach me and be like, please pay for these damages, I would consider that. So I do consider myself, in light of that, a good person. Yeah. Um, what else can I tell you? I don't really want to get into that whole shooting. Someone was shot this week. Someone shot every day in America. It's beautiful. My wife and I have been trying to spice things up in the bedroom. We've been trying to role play, and I told her, like, it's okay. You can talk dirty. You can insult me. So she's like, I wish you made more money. And that really hurt in a kinky way. Was like being completely choked. And then she was like, I wish you would go to the gym. And boy, things really got hot and heavy there quick. And then she's getting really good at it, at the kink play. Some of you probably are into like choking. I imagine if you're watching this podcast, you're into choking. It's good to find out, and it also kind of pressure tests you, to see if you can survive under extreme circumstances. I personally, the only way I can get off now is with waterboarding. I like that. Yeah, but waterboarding with baby oil, waterboarding with baby oil, something that I would have done with Diddy if he would have let me. Speaking of Diddy, he's getting out of prison, and the president of Venezuela is getting in. I like how that works. And they're both in New York. It's interesting. I used to live in Brooklyn, New York, and the apartments there are so small that President of Venezuela, Maduro, actually got a bigger room than I had in Brooklyn. Being treated rather well. Kind of surprised that Trump is bringing illegal immigrants into the country. Feels like it's not quite what he promised, But I'm surprised President Trump isn't keeping the Venezuelan guy in Trump Tower, Trump Hotel. Is it a hotel or is it a tower? What else? I also think it'll be interesting. I don't know if this guy's going to get a fair trial. It wouldn't surprise me if the next conspiracy theory is Maduro didn't kill himself. You know what I mean? Epstein, may he rest in peace. May the Epstein forever rest in peace. What are we going to talk about next? I was thinking either Space Force or nationalism. I guess we would go with Space Force first. This is like always, it's kind of been on my mind lately. It's kind of nice to get away from ICE, get out to space for a minute. Although I'm sure ICE will make their way out there. I don't know what ICE's pronouns are. Thems will make themselves out there. I don't know. They shot someone like a day or two ago, ICE. You probably heard. The thing that's weird, I guess I will briefly go into it. I don't believe we should eliminate ICE or the police or any of that. There's a great analogy of like if your fingernails are overgrowing, you don't cut your thumb off. And I think the same thing is true with ICE. You just trim it a little bit. But it is kind of weird. This time they shot a U.S. citizen. It's like I've watched a couple YouTube documentaries on ICE, and they're going around like they're in Call of Duty. I mean, they're wearing full tactical combat gear as if they're in Ukraine, But the problem is they see Mexicans and they're treating them like Russians. That is an issue, I think. You can't treat a Mexican like a Russian. Russians are evil. Mexicans have great food. It's not the same. And I'm not saying I'm not liberal. I'm not conservative. I'm just nebulous. Back to Space Force. Let's get out of Chicago. Oh no, it was in Minneapolis. Space Force is interesting. The U.S. is like continuing to push Space Force. It's like, what? Invading Iraq wasn't enough? I just hope they leave space cleaner than they left Afghanistan. I see it as like space colonialism, maybe, like what the British did. It's also interesting they named it Space Force, not Space Peace, not Space Peace Corps, or anything like that. It's like, no, they're going to fuck space up, I could see them like getting to an exoplanet and then invading an alien population, overthrowing the alien government, and then setting up a alien puppet head, that will dictator that will be privy to U.S. influence, like one of the dictators, all of them. I think the real reason I think we're in Space Force, we're doing that whole thing, I think it's actually not because of aliens, but China, The U.S. is afraid, not of aliens, but they're afraid that China will do Space Force first and better. They're afraid the U.S., we're afraid, rather, that China is going to treat space like Taiwan. You know what I mean? And be like, that's ours. Made in space. One day that will be on some toys. That'll be nice. Yeah, space sweatshops. Mars is a hot planet. So I think the U.S. needs a mother. Someone who would be like, if China's going to jump off a bridge, are you? Someone who, the U.S. is just like unchecked. I mean, not to say that we shouldn't have a Space Force, but like, I would think we would, it's like, what are we going to pay guys to stand out there for billions of dollars? The way we spent billions and trillions in the Middle East. But they're afraid of China. China will turn space into Chinatown, China space, I mean, I can't blame them. But then again, Mars does have a lot of precious metals that would be good for iPhones. So, oh, man. I'm also noticing some people, some people rail against the billionaires, and definitely billionaires are insane. That much money, I don't think, should ever be under the allocation of one mentally ill brain. You know what I mean? Like, all it takes is for one of those guys to just snap a little bit. If his serotonin goes a little bit right, you know what I mean? Then all of a sudden, he can use billions of dollars to buy up ammunitions or Starlink, or, he could fuck over the GDP of Ecuador. like if he doesn't take his Prozac. It honestly seems dangerous. And I'm not for socialism. I just think like never before in history have we had these kinds of winner takes all economics, in the sense like obviously there was like Rockefeller, and there's been kings throughout history, which yes, that did suck. Those were monarchies though, like um but the wealth now is exponential, and because of technology, you can have exponential variables kind of blowing together. I think you can, like, I mean, nuclear weapons is a perfect example. Like, for the first time in history, these evolved apes, well, I mean, we're just apes who are billionaires now. You know what I mean? Like, there's apes who are billionaires. Like, that's what I foresee as the real problem, is that because of the exponential impact of technology, I mean, what's to stop a billionaire from purchasing a nuclear weapon? You know what I mean? And you might say, oh, United Nations law. It's like Iran is very close. I think of, you need uranium, and then you need to enrich it, and then you're pretty close to a nuclear weapon. It's kind of like how I'm trying to grow mushrooms, which I know that's illegal, so don't. It's a joke. um, but like, it's legal to purchase the spores, and it's legal to purchase the fertilizer, but it's not legal to put them together. You know what I mean? Like the way interracial marriage was a while ago. Thank God for interracial marriage, though, huh? We got Tiger Woods, Michael Jordan, Logic, the rapper. His dad is black, but all right, great. I love myself. I guess I'm saying that ironically. I think billionaires, here's my theory on billionaires. I think they're really just people that are addicted to wealth. You know what I mean? Because, like, once you have 10 billion, like, where's the motive to get to 50 billion? You know what I mean? But these people have a wealth addiction. Like, I thankfully have never, like, alcohol's never been a problem for me. But pornography is my kryptonite. And for these guys, it's like, seeing random zeros in their bank account. But most of this wealth, as you might know, is perceived wealth, because most of Amazon's value is actually in its evaluation as a company, which is how the stock and perception works. Some people, though, now, so you've got the billionaires who are addicted to wealth, and then you've got other people who are addicted to America. And I call these the nationalists. They're like, America. It's like you've got Trump, who's addicted to America, and then you've got Elon Musk, who's addicted to wealth. And never shall the two twain meet in their twats. I think that was an old phrase that I butchered. And to be honest, truth be told, I'm not even sure if Trump actually is a nationalist. I'm just using him as an example. I think he used to be liberal, if you look back at old interviews, and he said, if I was a smart guy, I would run as a Republican. I guess he is smart. He's smart, and he's a little bit of a fraud, but I say that knowing that all presidents have hypocrisy and, a little bit of paradox to them. Bill Clinton is a scumbag. I had hope for Obama, but he seemed to get in bed very quickly with corporate interests. God, I don't want to end on that. I just don't think you can make it to being president without compromising everything. You know what I mean? Like, it's such a powerful and coveted job at the top of the pyramid of the Illuminati, the triangle. Bill Clinton, some nice photos came out of him in a hot tub with what appeared to be redacted minors, but hopefully he afterwards he donated to their performing arts high school. Great guy, Clinton. Sarcasm. All right, that's all for this episode. Thank you so much.